Shake your head. More.
My favorite part's coming up here.
More beatbox?
Can you beatbox?
1, 2, 3, go!
I know, here it comes.
You got it.
More.
Yeah. He was in sync. He was in sync with Bronkar. He was in sync at that point. Both of them were just...
I love that.
Oh, my
Good
God.
job.
Listen, folks, welcome WDJY listeners, 99.1, Facebook, YouTube, now our Patreon followers, too. Thank you for joining. And I'll tell you, that is a 80 million person view viral video went out, I think, the end of January, right, Bronkar?
Well, yeah, we put it up last year. It was like 6 months ago, and it shot out and went kind of very viral. And
not 80 million viral.
No. It got somewhere, I don't know, like maybe 30 or 40 million. It was still like
wow,
significantly more viral than anything we had ever done in our lives. Yeah. And then it kind of died down for a few months, and then a couple of weeks ago, it just like blew. It just absolutely blew up, and yeah, we're just like, okay.
Wow, I think at 80 million people, it's almost like 1/3 of our population in the United States. So I mean, that is incredible, and I mean, it's simple. I mean, you know, the talent with your beatbox, and of course the baby's movement. You know, and what is the baby's name?
Elijah.
Yeah. Really? Okay. Now, is this the youngest or oldest, or?
He's the oldest of two.
Oldest of two.
Yeah. So
okay.
we've got he's 2 years old and a little bit of change, and and then we have Nico, who's 4 months old.
Wow. So, I mean, he probably has a really important program now where he's gonna be going off and showing Dad how to do it right out there in Hollywood.
Oh, he's showing me how to do everything. Oh yeah, man. He's He's people are wanting to pick him up.
Well, if you haven't figured out, we have Bronkar Lee here today. He's an author, coach, international acclaimed performer, and keynote speaker, and so much more. Ringmaster in the circus. I mean, this guy's done everything. We're gonna be talking about today, really, in a really important. I consider probably one of the more important types of ways of living life is being able to raise children at the same time living your purpose, whatever that purpose may be. Because usually there's this mentality, Bronkar, as you know, it's like it's an or mentality. Well, I could raise kids, or I could go to my career and live my purpose, or I could, you know, I have to sacrifice having children and I'll just focus on my career or whatever it may be. But I don't believe that, and I don't think you do either. And we're going to find out what you really think here in a minute. That I think it's an end situation, as Michael Litton would say. It's not the or, it's the end belief system. It's you could live your purpose and raise beautiful children, right?
Yeah.
So when we get into how you do that, and Bronkar is probably a living example of how he's doing it, because he's doing both right now as we speak. As you can see, I don't know if you get a happier baby than that. It's like a rap future here for the baby. He's you know.
Seems like it.
Is he ruined?
Training well.
Is he ruined? Bronkar ruined him, young age. You know, he's smoking dope and hanging out, and you know, cars are going up and down. What are they going to be doing here? So, so anyway, we have a great show. I want to mention a few things to you guys first before we get into the topic of the show with Bronkar. And we have our Patreon. Our Patreon is launched 1 day ago. So go subscribe at patreon.com/UI Radio Network. Get on there. We have incredible information we're already put on there that you're not going to see anywhere else. Tomorrow, Friday, Elisa E. MK. She's a high-level MK Ultra survivor, meaning she was programmed by the elitists, the bloodline families from generation to generation, and she was basically created through this multiple personality splitting of the brain process, MK Ultra, which is the most insidious programming in the world, in my opinion, right now. And yeah, no, it didn't go away back in the 70s. It's strong and moving forward as underneath the radar more so than ever before. But she has learned to heal, integrate her over 1,000 personalities, majority of them fragmented, and she is in the healing mode as integrated, and she's in charge of her, as she says, we, the collective. And she is going to be great information. We're going to be talking on air tomorrow on FM as well, but we'll also, right after that, the last half hour of the show, we're going to be going into the Patreon, where only if you're a member to get the real juicy detail. This lady was created to have to be a sex assassin, to assassinate people throughout her life, and she didn't really find integration and peace until she was in her mid 40s. So it's an incredible story, and it's a story of healing and a story of exposure of this type of torturous world we live in right now. I call the Luciferian net that's over this world, and it's an example of how worse the worst is. And I'll tell you what, we need to shine light on the darkness, and darkness needs to see the light, and light needs to see the darkness, and boom, we have gray, and we learn to embrace our own darkness as well as embrace our own light, and that's how I believe we transform a world. So Bronkar's here, and we're going to be talking about more things about transforming the world from a light perspective. Last thing I want to mention, we have a celebrity guest for Tuesday. Bronkar's a celebrity guest. What's Jesse talking about? Bronkar's right here. He's a celebrity guest.
Right, man.
Come on, 80 million views. Yeah, most celebrities would sell their Shatner would sell his right arm to get that type of attention right there, old Kirk, little attention hoe. We got also we have our second season of Good Intention Show with Tim Ray. We just finished filming eight shows on last week. You were on the first set, Bronkar. Remember?
Yeah.
All right. That's Comcast picked that up, and that's making a lot of headway.
Nice.
We have about a 1.6 million views potential on those shows, and this next set's going to be even more impressive. Although you're not there, so I don't know if it'll be that impressive, but we'll be repeating the shows for you too.
You can always bring me back.
Yeah, really? Oh, come on, it's like old news, man. No, actually, well,
well, I'm here right now.
Who invited him?
Yeah.
The
back door was open.
The back door was open. Jennifer will be airing in a few months, but catch first season on Channel 24 here, local Channel 24 on Comcast, or go to YouTube at your community, as well as it's airing in a couple of states, and I don't know the details. Anyway, so that's fantastic. Back to our show and celebrity guest today, Bronkar Lee. I really do consider you a celebrity, and I don't. And to me, to measure that from a view perspective, or from, say, a Hollywood mainstream media perspective, which I don't respect that as much as I used to. I do the ones who don't have to compromise, but the ones who stay true to their soul, to their purpose, as well as trying to do the right thing, as well as getting known, because I think that's important more so than ever before. And this is what I mean. I believe people of light, and we all have darkness and light, but people who are living an intentional life in the light as much as they possibly can, transforming alchemy, transforming the darkness, the addictions, whatever in their life as they go forward on the journey in life, really need to be noticed, needs to be raised in our society, in this Luciferian society, much more than ever before. In this limited Luciferian, because it is it's a house of cards. Once people are aware of the light and shine the light on it, it all falls apart. They're very close for falling apart. So once the light is shine on that, people who are successful like Bronkar raise that up, and people see, wow, you got a principled man living his purpose, raising beautiful children, and really making a difference out there in the world. That's so important now more than ever before. And I'm so grateful to know somebody like you, Bronkar, who's actually doing that, and who is uncompromising, and who really looks at and has his priorities straight. And that's what the show is going to be about today: staying true to yourself and moving forward and becoming a light for others. So, Bronkar, that's a pretty big shoes to step into, huh?
Yeah. If you could formulate a question out of that, that would be great.
Okay. All right, how do you do it? Huh? How do you do it?
Because I do have ADHD, and I could go in a couple dozen directions there. Yeah.
All right. So let me form a question on that. Do you believe you're living that type of life right now?
You mean a life of
life of living your purpose and doing the right thing?
Yeah,
in
definitely.
your perspective, whatever the right thing is to you.
Yeah, I do, and it's definitely a choice. I don't believe that one is born light or dark, so to speak. It's definitely a choice because in my younger years, I
Embrace the darkness.
yeah, I definitely. I mean, I totaled several cars. I was really on a dark path and lived in that world, and then I made a conscious choice to shift. And once I made that conscious choice, it's been almost 2 decades. Then my life started changing, and I actually was consciously living with the intention to add value to people's lives, to show up and be of service. I look at every situation that I'm in, whether it's speaking, because I do keynote speaking. That's my main gig. When I'm speaking, I always say it's I want to give the audience a gift, and when I leave the room and they open that gift up, what's going to be inside of that gift? Is it going to be something that empowers them? Is it going to be something that inspires them, that catalyzes some positive movement in them? And so that's my intention. And that's not just when I'm on the platform in front of thousands of people. That's when I'm going to get a coffee, at Starbucks or Pete's or whatever, and I'm interacting with the barista, or I fly a lot, so it's airport security, TSA. It's all the places that
Supermarket in the aisle, in
yeah,
the line.
absolutely. So it's just a way of being, and it's something that's with me at all times. And so I'm consciously thinking about giving little gifts to people here and there all the time. Another analogy that I like to use, Tim, is music, because I live in the world of music. So I think, when I was a kid, when you're really young, I used to watch the Andy Griffith Show with my grandfather, and everybody knows the Andy Griffith Show, the theme song, right?
Yeah.
You're welcome. You'll have that in your head for the rest of the day. But so when I would hear that song, I would get it stuck in my head, and I would notice that after the show, it would be in my head for hours, and then I would start whistling it unconsciously, and then I would notice my grandma would start whistling it, and then my grandma might get in the car and drive to the supermarket, and then she might be whistling it down the aisle, and then somebody else might start whistling it. The cashier might be whistling it, and then it goes on and on and on. It has that ripple effect, right? And so it really got me thinking, if that's getting stuck in my head after I watch this show, what is my theme song? What is the song that I'm whistling or singing when I'm just carrying myself in the world? When I show up and it's showtime with whoever happens to be around me, what's that song that I'm whistling and singing? So I always encourage people to just be aware of what is your theme song? What is the song that you're singing that's getting stuck in other people's head, that's living on when you leave the physical space with them?
Well, it's amazing how you actually had the time to contemplate that. Most people go through life really into their ego, especially people who have talent. When you have a certain talent, like you're a very talented person. I mean, you have over 80 million views on just a 5 minutes of couple minutes of your kid that you probably do every day. But that beatbox talent and your personality is just is God-given talent there. So a lot of people get lost in the ego, and they don't they never really sit back and contemplate on that. But don't you think the fact that you do contemplate and you really intentionally try to do and engage in everyone, not just the people you think you're going to benefit from, that is because you did have those dark moments and those times where you were very self-focused, or whatever the case, self-destructive?
Yeah, absolutely. You can only heal if you've been hurt. I mean, you don't know what it's like. You can't relate to somebody like I was incredibly overweight. I was about 100 pounds heavier when I was younger.
I don't believe it.
And because
Good-looking man like you.
because I experienced that, I also had a lot of physical pain, with tendonitis and a couple knee surgeries and things like that. But I've experienced that side of life. And so now I can relate to people, and I actually became a personal trainer and coach people and still do coaching, but I can relate to people who are struggling with trying to lose weight, or shifting their dietary intake, or and it's not just it's not just what you're putting into your body and the physical maintenance. It's also the psychological. What are we allowing into our psyche? What's our mental diet? you know, and what are we watching? What are we surrounding ourselves with? Not only what types of movies or what types of shows or what types of things we're watching, but what types of music we're listening to. All of that stuff, you know, is absolutely affecting us on a molecular level. I mean, we've seen, you know, the studies of water with different energies coming into it and how it creates different structures. We're 70% water, you know, so it's like that. The vibrations absolutely affect us. Just like when you hear a Harley Davidson rev up, right? And it's like, it like, that was my Harley Davidson interpretation, by the way. It was pretty pathetic, I know, but I'm semi-professional. But when it revs up, we feel that, like it gets the heart rate up, you know, and so we feel that when that muffler, you know, and so it's whereas a beautiful, you know, piece of violin concerto or something, you know, will set a different tone for us. So
different vibration, different experience.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you know, so now you bring in science into this, which I think is wonderful, because everything is frequency and vibration. I think the sooner the people realize that, the sooner they realize that the power and influence they have, like you just said, when you're whistling just a simple little tune, you shift the people's almost their day experience. You could be that one catalyst, maybe small, that makes them decide to do something of kindness to someone else, where before they wouldn't have done that.
Absolutely.
And so you really can't measure the impact that people have on their lives, but over a time, and if you through a cumulative process, if that's more of your intention, I think you will see that ripple effect where it also comes back, and in the law of giving and receiving, right?
And it isn't a linear process. Life isn't linear, you know. It's a very
seems it, but it's not, is it?
Yeah, it's a very expansive thing. I mean, just the video that we were just watching with 80 million views, we didn't plan that. Like, and I've had so many people ask me, you know, back to kind of that point in the parenting and everything. Yeah. But you know, people have asked me, well, how did you do it? How did you make the viral video? And I'm like, we just filmed it, and literally, I mean, there was nothing about it that should have been like viral, as far as like all of the science that people are trying to come up with like, how do you measure this, and what time of day do you post, and what day of the week do you post, and how do you film, blah, blah, blah. We had zero lighting. We had zero production, no microphones. We had a little iPhone. My wife didn't even hold it like horizontally. It was vertical, you know what I mean? And so we had so many people say, oh, you should have held it horizontal. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, don't be hating, you know? It's just like, there was zero production. We posted it like, we like looked it up. I can't remember. It's like the worst possible time of the day of the week to post, like Sunday at 9 or something like that. I can't remember exactly. Don't quote me on that. And we didn't even make it shareable. And my wife's friend, Cindy, her friend said, hey, I'd love to share this video. Will you make it shareable? We didn't even know it wasn't shareable. So we made it shareable. Within an hour, we got a call from ABC News, and they ran a story on us, and then they posted it. And then within 24 hours, it got 1 million views, over 1 million views. And it just went super viral. We got calls from Fox News, from CNN, from all these, you know, viral video companies. Like, it just like, we just got inundated, and it was actually a really intense feeling. I'd never felt anything like it. Right. But and then but it just like blew up all of a sudden, and it's like, we just did it. And I don't think it has to do with all of those exterior things like that. I think it comes down to that connection. And I believe that it was a moment, and we were fully present in the moment. And so it's less about thinking about all of these external variables.
What I'm going to get out of it, more so just losing yourself in the present moment, whatever you're doing.
Just being internally aware and connected to another human being, and just having a moment. And then it's like, oh, people are watching. These people have a moment. There's something there, you know? Yeah.
No, that's brilliant. You just put a lot of businesses out of business, so just so you know.
Sorry.
All these marketing ad companies, like, shut them up. Yeah. But you know, you're I can't emphasize enough, I believe, how right you are. And I have those present moments, and you know, and God forbid, thank God, people aren't filming my present moments at times. But when you know you're in that moment, and like you can see your intensity of your face. I mean, you did not take your eyes one time. You're reading every minute behavior, movement that your child's doing, and you're totally engrossed in that moment, and which he was, and of course even your wife was too, when she was
absolutely
she knew what to say and what not to say. So it was really being in the present moment. I consider the magic of living life is. And so when you're at the supermarket and you talk and you have 1,000 things on your head, or you may be on your phone, or you're wanting to do something, and you have this stranger that is bagging your food, or is typing up your groceries, and you don't say anything, and you just kind of like, this is, I don't really want to engage in conversation. I just don't even thinking about it. Or don't even acknowledge. How many times you've been to the grocery store, you don't even acknowledge that somebody just did that. You walk out like, how did I get to my car, right? But there's a lost moment there, isn't there?
Definitely.
That could transform, like you said, their whole life. You could whistle, you could give a compliment, you could do whatever, and it could set things in motion.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah. And I mean, that's the energy that and the cool thing is we can all do that. It's not like, hey, I'm special. I'm the only one that can do it. I will heal you. It's like, no, it's like human beings, we all have this ability. And it's such a powerful tool, just that sense of awareness. And I'll also just comment on the fully present in the moment thing. There's a technique that I like to use because I'm a coach, and so I love like coaching. And
like coach or life coach?
Life coach.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I've been a personal trainer, and
the guy walks on tight ropes. He's a master circus. I mean, this guy, he probably walked across the trade centers where they were here.
No. Don't start rumors. No, I definitely did not. I have a lot of friends who are high level circus performers, and if they watch this, they're going to call me out. So no, I am not a tightrope walker at all.
A ringmaster, though.
Yeah,
I know that much.
I was a ringmaster. Yes, for a year in a Swiss circus, which is a real conversation starter. But that's a conversation for another time. But there's this cool thing because there's these, like kind of self-awareness, personal awareness. There's a lot of like kind of soft skills or life skills or essential skills that are really hard to calculate and hard to measure. Like we were talking about the linear system of life. Right. And there's a cool technique that we can all do where it's just, I call it like the time traveler's journal, where you just simply, it's projection and reflection. And if we do this simple technique where it's at the top of the day, we project into the future of what we want to create, what we want to do. Like I want to cultivate the skill of listening, right? Or let's take like rapport, for example. I want to create more rapport with people. Okay, well, rapport is made up of multiple skills, right? We can dissect that and say, okay, rapport is, speaking, it's listening, and it's memorization, right? So if we authentically listen to somebody, then we hear what they're saying, we memorize their name, a story they shared, whatever. Then later we call that back to them. Then we create this amazing rapport because they're like, oh, he heard me or she heard me. Yeah. They know my name. Oh, they knew my story. So next time, at the grocery store, next time you go in the grocery store, you remember their name. I mean, how powerful is this? You go back in a week later, you see the same gal at the checkout counter and it's Amy, make believe. And you say, hey, Amy, without looking at her name tag. And
how's your aunt doing?
You call back and suddenly there's this magic moment because she's been heard, she's been acknowledged, right? And you've internalized that and then you speak it back, right? So when you deconstruct a skill like that, you can break it into sub parts and you can actually get very scientific about these essential skills, life skills. And so with this projection reflection, you say, I want to create more rapport. Okay, I want to work on the skill of listening. And then throughout the day, you just are aware of that. At the end of the day, you reflect back, you say, okay, well, I had this experience, this experience, this experience. This was optimal, this was suboptimal, this was optimal, this was less preferred, this was preferred. I'm going to see how I can recreate that or how I can learn quickly and effectively from what was less preferred, right? And you just simply have this awareness. And what you're doing is time traveling. So you're thinking into the future, then you're reflecting on the past so that you can create the upgraded version of you, the better version of you, and you can cultivate these skills to create those deeper connections with people, right?
Wow, that is. I almost want him to repeat all that again. Thank God this is being taped. But it is building rapport. That's a formula for building rapport, a formula for improving yourself on a daily basis. Because a lot of people will get lost in the future or lost in the past. But you're talking about kind of like what Eckhart Tolle talks about is using this clock time to make it work for you. Like we need our past and future periodically to do what you just said, to utilize what you experienced. Turn it into something that you could definitely benefit in your next present moment, whatever it may be. Yeah. Same thing in the future. How do I want to be in the future? Because we're all, 2 years from now, you're not going to be the same person you are today, or at least your beliefs may be different. Maybe personality, you'll change maybe 5% in a lifetime, but the beliefs we have change based on this type of contemplation. Definitely. It takes contemplation.
Yes.
One of the things I find interesting, and we have a little time before break, but is that we could talk about is the distractions in life, because the distractions, addictions, the outside shiny objects is a great way to keep you away from contemplating, thinking about your actions and your interactions and living in the present moment. Mm-hmm. And not to mention, it's very insatiable. And why don't you share a little bit of time, perhaps, when you were just really lost in the shiny objects, and how that kind of made you feel about yourself.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of levels inside of that. I mean, I'll say, just in calling back to to the video, that's kind of the thread throughout this this conversation is the importance of being fully present and connected in the moment. And I I look at every skill that we acquire in life is a potential tool that we can use to create deeper connections, build bridges of relatability, to be with people on a deeper level, right? Communicate, whatever it is. And so in this video, the beatboxing is a skill that I'm using to connect with Elijah. Now, the reason why I'm so connected with Elijah is well, not the only reason, but my hold on, let me reframe that.
Bronkar was a heavy-set Chinaman.
Yeah.
And so
earlier in my life, right?
Okay.
from birth to 20-ish, right? So I had an interesting adventure. I actually didn't know my biological father. And so throughout my life, I met him when I was 28 years old. Throughout my entire life, I was searching. I was trying to put the puzzle together and piece things together. And so I kept looking and I kept searching. I kept doing crazier and crazier things and going out there and trying stuff and doing this and doing that, running away, enjoying the circus, whatever it is. And then all of a sudden, when I had Elijah, it brought me to the moment. And there was a moment where I realized how distracted I had been. There was a moment that I realized it because I had just found out. I had spoken to my biological father, and I had just found out that my grandfather had passed. And this was a few months ago, right before this video went out. And I had this conversation with him, and he said, "Yeah, your grandfather passed." And I had really wanted to meet my granddad,
right,
but I wasn't. He didn't allow me to. He basically put up the blocks and said no. So I was an illegitimate child, right? And so I have 4 brothers and sisters, don't know I exist, et cetera, et cetera. It's a complicated story, all kinds of fun. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole right now. But the point is that the next morning after I heard that about my grandfather passing, I was having a day with Elijah, and I got really frustrated, right? He was being, he was just being a 1.5-year-old or whatever he was, 19-month-old or whatever. Yeah. And I remember looking at him and getting so frustrated. I was like, dude, can't you just chill out? And he got so hurt.
Oh, that just kills you thinking about it.
And dude, it was so, and he got so hurt, and I scooped him up and I held him in my arms, and I said, little man, this energy is not for you. This is an old story that I was living with my dad. This is an old story that I was living before. Today we start a new story, and we write a new story with us. And so I broke that old pattern, and it was a very powerful moment. I broke that old pattern. I broke that cycle, and I let it go. And then I came fully present in the moment with him. We had one of our best days that we've ever had together. And then very shortly after that is when we filmed this video, and then it went super viral. And there was something in that energy of just being fully present with him and wanting to give him every bit of my essence, you know what I mean? And just that intentionality behind it. Yeah. It's so powerful, whether it's a beatboxing or a saxophoning or a juggling or a whatever crazy thing, it doesn't really matter. It's really just being intentional with whatever it is that we're doing. Yeah. That makes all the difference. Yeah.
I call that leveling up, and it's times and moments when you have a sincere awakening, like when you had that moment with him and you saw the pain in your child's eyes, and your immediate response was to, as a parent, as you know, as parents, you'll do anything for you'll jump in front of the bus for your kid. I mean, it's just a natural instinct that's going to come in, for mothers and for fathers for the most part. But you had that leveling up where you saw that you immediately transformed serious energy right there when you not only you felt it and you shared that energy, but you voiced it.
Yeah.
When you voice it, or you proclaimed it. There's power in that too.
Yes, that vibration. And then taking action.
And then you almost like a transformation of a belief, immediate belief in that's burned into your brain somewhere.
It was immediate. It was immediate.
Right.
It was like that, and I was like, I acknowledged the self-awareness.
Yeah.
I acknowledged that was somebody else's energy.
Yeah.
That was coming through me. That was an old pattern.
Yeah.
That was something else that was being created, and it was not for him.
Right. And so when you had that moment, it's almost like I consider the angels or the universe or God or goddess, all there is, whatever you define. That it's like, oh wow, he's awakening. So let's give him all this energy, and then boom, things open up for you.
Yeah.
You know, as that video and whatever it may be. But it says, okay, it's confirmation that the universe is abundant. God is beautiful, benevolent being. You know, and here you are now in that flow of that energy. When we get back from break, let's talk about what your kind of beliefs are. And I know you probably haven't really put a lot of thought into a formula for living your purpose and being an intentional father and intentional husband. But let's dig deep and kind of we'll find out what's going on in Bronkar Lee's heart and mind, which could be pretty scary. We're right back with Bronkar Lee. All right, we are back with Bronkar Lee. This man, you have done so much, honestly, so far, and I don't know really. Of course, you have a talent. You've been on the Jay Leno show, Tonight Show. You have, of course, you worked a circus. You've been in Madison Square Garden. You are a keynote speaker. And by the way, I'm doing everything as I move forward and do my thing. I'm going to have you keynote speaking everywhere, you know? I mean, I'm telling you, man. Because, very few keynote speakers have a great sense of humor. I mean, yours is not a good sense of humor. Yours is a great sense of humor. And also get your point and your sincerity point across. I mean, that really is probably considered one of the most talented of people out there. So,
thanks, brother.
So do you enjoy your keynote speaking more than anything? Or?
Love it. Not more than anything, because that's a big one, right? Because I got a wife and 2 boys. Okay, so I got to be careful what I say here. But I very much enjoy my keynote speaking. It's a lot of fun, and I'm actually I consider myself the accidental philosopher. So I just I have a lot of fun, and I believe that again comedy or humor is a tool that we can use to disarm people, right? To create that laughter, that vibration, and then we throw a little idea, plant a little seed in their minds, and they're like, oh, well that was that was cool. I could get with that, So yeah.
Well, listen, that's to me that's living your purpose and dealing with your family and raising a family and being a responsible father and husband as well as a friend, Yeah. So do you want to talk a little bit about some formulas here? I mean, we're definitely going to have them beatboxing a little bit later, okay? So don't worry. I don't know, we'll come up with maybe Wahid or something. We'll have them beatbox to Wahid or something. Wahid is a producer here, local producer, music producer here in Roswell. So, he's probably already checking you out, man, in a non-gay way, But,
I understand.
All right.
Either way, I'm flattered.
All right. So tell me, can you come up with a formula, or do you just know this is just accidentally Bronkar? I mean, nothing I can tell you.
You mean a formula for being me?
No, just living your purpose and balancing it, because a lot of people they don't feel like they can do that.
I gotcha. Yeah, I think it's definitely an integration. I mean, for my experience, everybody's different, so it's always hard to give advice or anything. I'm not like the sage or the guru or any of that stuff. I'm just a dude, but for me, it's an integration. It's definitely an integration, and it's a balance, and it's being able to first of all compartmentalize things, and being able to say, okay, well now I'm doing this, and now I'm doing this, and essentially being like a shapeshifter, right? And being able to, there's a lot of shades to our personality pies. Like I'm going to show up and be, different in our interaction versus when I'm hanging out with my wife, Cindy, versus when I'm hanging out with Elijah or my mom or, the cashier at the grocery store, back to her, Amy. I don't know where she came from. There isn't, not that I know of, there isn't like an Amy at the grocery store that I know of, but now there is. And I'm probably going to see her next time I'm at the store later today.
That's power of manifestation right there. And she have ant issues too, you watch.
Oh, you're Amy. Yeah. God, I just talked about you today. I know we haven't met, but so I think it's about being conscious of shifting our shape, right? And our style, our rhythm, our tempo, the way we speak, and our intensity levels and things like that. I have a lot of energy, so I have to be very aware of that, of how to manage that throughout the day.
Because you could maybe be too intense at different situations.
Definitely. Well, and also just looking at cycles. I mean, cycles are such a powerful part of everyone's lives. It's like the cycles of seasonal cycles, life cycles, bigger macro cycles, right? But then, daily cycles. We have, how we eat and the digestion process and how we get energy, how we sleep, different cycles of the day, whether we are, using caffeine or carrot juice. It's like they affect us differently. And so, being aware of all of these different cycles that are happening just in our patterns. And when we're aware of those again, then we can say, okay, well, I'm going to do really well at like focusing on business here because I'm an entrepreneur. So it's like the whole fun thing of like, everybody's like, oh, you get to work from home. And it's like, I have to work from home. It's, but it's like, minus the commute part, I can deal without, but I actually have I have an office space too. So where I go and work, but
do you prioritize though? Do you you have a certain priority? Like if there's a family crisis versus a talent crisis, how do you prioritize?
Sure. Yeah.
Talent always wins. Sorry, honey. No.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. We had that, but it's a tricky one because it's like we got to keep the electricity on. You know what I mean? But it's like, well, we got to go. Life happens, and again, it's not linear. So we have to. I think the most important thing is to live in a state of real life jazz. I think about, again, back to, the parenting thing. When Elijah was born, actually, we went, this is an example of, we went to for our first birth. It was my wife's first birth. Sorry about that. I have to specify. I was not giving birth. Just to be clear, it was my wife, Cindy, giving birth. I was there holding her hand and breathing with her and doing everything I could, but it was not me doing the work. But, we had an intention. We had an expectation coming into it where we were like, we're going to do this natural birth and we're going to use no narcotics and we're going to do blah, 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 and all of this stuff. And then 16 hours into labor,
get me the epidural, or I'll kill you.
Yeah. Well, we had complications, and it was like all of a sudden we hit a wall, and he was coming out. Elijah was coming out face first as opposed to head first. Yeah. So once we talked to the doctor, we got the second opinion. Okay, here's your option. It's to do an emergency cesarean, and we actually had a moment where we were like, wait a second, this wasn't part of the plan. We're not sure if we're going to do this or not. And the doctor's like, what? You want to have the baby? Do you want to live? Well, we're going to do this, but then we had to change gears immediately. And it was like, we had to be in that jazz of life. It was like to be present there and say, okay, well, that was our expectation. That was our intention. Yeah. But now it's like, we've got to change gears. We've got to shift because we're not the biggest circle in the room. We don't know the most about this topic. We're in the beginner's mind, even though it's my wife doing the thing and I'm being Papa and I'm like, no, we have a plan. It's like, I don't know anything about childbirth other than the few books that I've read and a couple of classes that I went to. This is my first real life experience.
No, you understand, I made this. This is my project, right?
Well, that's what we're thinking. We're like, no, that's my mural. That's my painting. That's my song in there, It's like, look, buddy, no. But we had
my ship now. I'm the captain.
Yeah. So there's all these situations, and it turned out to be a very good. It was a positive experience. We just like had to, in that moment, we had to like, it was that split decision, that snap decision. We had to shift everything and say, okay, now we're putting on the scrubs and we're going in. We're going into ER.
There's a difference between the intention and expectation, because an intention, like you had, your intention, you wanted to do this natural birth, and and it's an excellent intention, right? It's where I think we like you found out where you go wrong is when we tie an expectation to that intention.
Definitely.
Now you just basically corrupted an intention because it has to look a certain way.
Yes.
And when it has to look a certain way, then when you don't see it that way, you don't accept any other potential reality.
Absolutely.
And that's a great lesson, right?
Absolutely. And the intention was, healthy wife Cindy. Healthy baby Elijah.
We're all alive. We're leaving the hospital alive.
Yes. Let's leave the hospital alive. Yes. So yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. So you've learned these lessons as you go forward, and you're learning them with your family. So speak a little bit about how when your Hollywood experience, and as you're still in Hollywood experience, and I know a few folks in that environment, and it's always like you have to have two kind of belief systems. One when you're talking to a potential producer, right, and then when you're talking about Hollywood, and when my experience there, so you have to be careful, especially in the midst of this. A recognition period of time, you don't want to upset people. At the same time, you want to kind of see things the way it is. And there's decisions that I would say almost people, especially the superstars you see out there, the real superstars out there. I mean, when I say real superstars, that sounds giving them way too much credit in a sense. People in the mainstream media that have got an international following, and it can measure it by numbers, whatever it may be, that's constantly doing the commercials and the TVs and the movies and all that jazz. A lot of them had to do a lot of compromising. Now, is there extent that you think people, and not all, I'm saying perhaps a lot, is there extent that you think that you're willing to compromise for that level of recognition?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it comes down to
Cindy, baby, bye. See, you don't know you got to go.
Yeah, right. No, it comes down to intentionality again,
Yeah.
and so you will. Look, the way that I live my life, and I have lived my life, is being as authentic as I can be.
Yeah.
And I find that the more truthful I am and the more authentic that I am, this has worked for me.
Yeah.
Not everybody is into this, okay?
It works for everybody if you do it. Just try it.
But
Be authentic.
I find that the more truthful I am, the more connection I have with people, the deeper connections I have. When I share a story about not knowing my dad till I was 28, when I share a story about an intense birth of Elijah, when I share a truthful story, that creates a bridge of relatability, and people can relate to that, right? Oh, you were 100 pounds overweight? Wow, now we have a connection because I feel your pain.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just a depth to it. So to me, I'm an open book. I'm like a golden retriever. You know, it's just like I show up and I'm just like ball, let's play. And that's the way that I personally function. That's the way that I coach people. That's the way that I speak. I mean, obviously when I'm on the platform, I have I'm a buttoned up version of myself. I mean, I'm tightened together, but I look at it more as the ability to assimilate. To different environments. So I'm not compromising my morals ever. I'm not compromising, what I believe in. What I'm doing is I'm assimilating to a culture. And as a keynote speaker, I'm constantly coming into different cultures. Maybe in 1 week, I'm in 3 different states for 3 totally different cultures. It's going from salespeople to, healthcare people to, whatever another random thing is that I can't think of off the top of my head because I'm so good at improvisation. I just assimilate so quickly, so I've got to shift gears and go into these, and I'm still being me at the core of it. I'm still being me and showing up as the beatboxing dad with Elijah. It's like speaking different languages and shifting my shape slightly to just adapt to their culture and be able to speak to them in a language that they understand, the same way that we shift shapes when you and I are talking versus if we're talking to grandma versus if we're talking to a kindergartner. Not that any of them are better or worse. It's just a kindergartner has this, and this is a story. I have super ADHD, so don't forget
Amy though.
I know, and Amy, good old Amy at the grocery store when I talk to her, But when I lived in Switzerland, I have a lot of European friends who, English might be their second, third, fourth, fifth language, right? And I used to drive Cindy nuts with this, my wife Cindy, because when I would speak to my one friend Pedro, whose English was like his third or fourth language, I would break up my sentences, and I would say, "We go now, store." Yeah.
So he would understand it better.
And if I said, "Yo, man, let's go to the store," he's like, "Huh?
What'd you call me?"
Yeah, exactly. So it creates that disconnect. But I changed the tonality, the timbre, the tempo, the sentence structure, right? Because German, you put the verb at the end, so it's like all of a sudden, super complicated. Why would you say go at the end? But so we shift that a little bit, like in different languages. We do the same thing with dialect or style or tempo when we're connecting with other people. I don't really know what I'm talking about right now.
No,
I don't know where we started, but let's come back.
Listen, you're right where you're supposed to be. I'll tell you why. Because one of the codes that we just decoded with Bronkar Lee inside his magical mind and heart is that you have learned that you are willing to compromise strategy but not principle. And that's a great code to live by, because that is when you go around in any situation, you adapt yourself, but you're not going to sell out the principle of what you believe.
Yeah.
You will change to speaking a different way for your Pedro, or you will change by speaking a different way to Amy at the grocery store.
Yeah.
But you're not going to compromise that principle to Bronkar. So compromise strategy, compromise principle. Great. We got that formula down. Let's go on to the next one.
All right, let's do it. Let me recite this formula that I haven't created yet.
Well, you live in it. You
Yeah.
don't have to,
Right.
but it's a great formula. It's probably a wonderful formula to share with your kids and everyone else.
Yeah.
Because some people are just so stubborn, they'll never compromise strategy, and they lose out on so many opportunity to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
And so, go ahead.
Well, in strategy, I mean, that's it. I mean, that comes kind of back to the tools that we're using, right? Because
Absolutely.
everybody has different tools at their disposal, right? I mean, we've all come from different places. We've all got a different tool belt, and that's, I think, the thing with, you know, parenting. Well, not just parenting, but human connection in general is, what are the tools that we have? How are we connecting? I mean, the most important thing is the intentionality, and like, I'm showing up to create a moment. I want to, you know, my goal is to get some sparkly eyes.
Yeah.
My goal is to get a smile. My goal is to get a laugh. My goal is to somehow add value to this other human being's life, right? And so, what tools do I have at my disposal? How can I use this tool here? Maybe this situation calls for this tool, or this one calls for this tool, right? And this was the thing about humor and comedy that took me a long time to understand, was that's a tool. It's absolutely a tool to create those connections. If you can listen to somebody, you can hear something, and you can put a twist on this thing just by saying words. You create this vibration in a human. They're like, ha, 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 ha. You didn't touch them. You just said something. You planted an idea in their head, and all of a sudden, ha, 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 ha. That would be like a large male laugh. Different laugh. Woo! Welcome to the inside of my mind.
Listen, it may be scary, but it is a beautiful place. Yeah. I listen. I have had glimpses, and I'll tell you what, I'm in. Put me in, Bronker. I'm in. Right. No, I just think it's wonderful that somebody who is creative as you and who has established your principles. And I know principles. You know, people say, "Oh, I'm a very principled person," but our principles are created over time, and certain things you're willing to compromise on principle. Certain things you're not willing. Mm-hmm. And like, for example, the moment in time when you establish a principle without probably even realizing it, when you hurt your child's feelings by acting that way, and you brought her in, you immediately unconsciously created a principle that you will not break. And if you do break it, you'll remedy it immediately.
Immediately,
you know? Yeah. And so I think that's incredible. In fact, I love the fact that what you do is you're very careful when you do go out and you share your talent to different environments, whether it's Hollywood and so on. What is that life like? What is it like when you do go out and you go to an unknown place that you're not sure what they're going to be asking you, and you know, because a lot of times you go to Hollywood, I'll tell you right now, they ask you to compromise your principles, and it's not just strategy. And so it's a lot of people who are not prepared for that, haven't established that yet, and usually younger kids haven't established that yet. That internal belief system, they're compromising their principles and they know it doesn't feel right. Yeah. Some deep down, they may be induced on drugs or whatever it may be, or the fame of the $5 million they put into your bank account, but they're just not. It's like something's not right, and they know they're compromising their principle. And I say compromise on probably your internal soul purpose while you're here. You know, you're not even realizing it. And then they feel like they gone too far. They can never come back. And so and this outside environment feeds into this. You know, you're not a good person. You compromise. But do you feel there's always salvation when people do compromise on principle?
Yeah, I mean, that's a complicated topic for sure. Yeah. You know, again,
well, you're a complicated man.
I am, yes.
In a very simplistic Labrador type of way.
Yeah, right. No, it's golden retriever.
Oh, golden retriever.
Okay? Golden retriever, not golden doodle.
Well, focus on.
I shed, unlike the doodles.
Focus on your experience so far in Hollywood. Have you had to compromise any principles?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been situations where I've been in. I mean, I've done some things in Hollywood. You know, Tonight Show with Jay Leno, America's Got Talent. I did a whole bunch of things, some commercials and stuff like that. And I've never compromised my principles as far as I can tell. I have a pretty. I think I kind of pride myself on having.
And it's okay. People do. I don't see
right.
the harm. I don't see the harm other than the self harm when you do compromise principle. But there's always, I think, retribution. You could always bring it back.
There's always every situation's different. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to compromise my principles or whatnot to do this thing because you mentioned $5 million, which is a nice chunk of money. That's a pretty number. I got to be honest. That's a beautiful. I got to say,
Cindy's like compromise.
Yeah. I mean, there's, but then you think about the back end. Okay, well, if I compromise in this moment and I get a number with that many zeros behind it, then I can take that, and that money is essentially, a potential power, right? Which is a tool that we can use okay, to create a foundation, to create more awareness about this, to create a foundation to give back to at-risk youth or battered women or whatever the thing is, which are all things that I've, spoken at all these different places, or whatever your sole purpose is. Then you're taking that and you're like, okay, well, if I do this one thing, I think about the end and I play chess on that. I'm always playing chess. And I think about, I play chess on that. And then if I get that, then I play chess on this. And actually the return on investment is going to be superior. I'm going to be able to heal way more people. I'm going to be able to create much more transformation in the world if I do this one thing where I say that one word that I'm not really into and I don't believe in, and then on the back end, I'm going to be able to do this. Then, I mean, that's jazz again. We take that situation and we see what it is. I mean, again, that number, I think about that kind of a number, $5 million. And for anybody listening or watching right now, if they want to offer that to me, I could do a lot with that. I've got a lot of ideas of how to give back to society and what I want to create.
He's sincere, and I believe it too. Honestly, I mean, it's nice, keep a couple dollars for yourself. But,
Yeah.
I was just listening to. We had a show yesterday where Linda Ketty, she was telling me, what's his name, Tony Robbins,
Yeah.
to talk to him on a phone call, like people pay $1 million.
Yeah.
I mean, my God, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've been to Tony Robbins conferences.
But
And
you didn't pay him $1 million to
I
talk to him.
did not. I did not have $1 million. But I mean, yeah. But so it's interesting. I mean, and money is obviously a complicated thing.
Yeah.
My definition of money is it's my friend, my ally, and my personal essence amplifier. So whatever comes in, I can use to amplify myself, whatever it is. If it's opening a school, if it's giving back, if it's go ahead.
No, no, you're right. I agree. I'm like, that's how I live my life. You have to be willing to let it all go.
Yeah.
You got to be willing to. Somebody gives you $1 billion, and you got to be willing to let the $1 billion go without compromising what your whatever that principle is to you.
Yeah.
If you're willing to let that go, I think then you're more likely to attract it.
Yeah.
It's like you're getting the certification that you can handle this and do well in the world. But when people kind of like, in the Lord of the Rings, what's his name? Siegel or whatever, Spiegel, Smiggle, yeah. Like the ring,
Wow, that was creepy. That was very good.
It changes your whole process, but it's tough because when you never had that type of money, how can you know how you'll react when you finally get all that money?
Oh yeah.
But I think my personal belief is if you have a already developed principle that you will let everything go because one, you can't leave this world with money.
Yeah.
You can't really do much, and then if you don't believe in an afterlife or whatever, then it may be a little harder to let that go. But if you're willing to let everything go, I really feel like that's when you'll actually get it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, just the way I think of it is it just kind of flows through, and it's like, okay, cool. This is energy. I'm gonna use it.
Yeah.
And how am I gonna use it? I'm gonna and whatever that is. If it's like I'm gonna buy an instrument so that I can connect more deeply or play more beautifully.
See, that's why you're so successful today. And how you measure success, by say this world measurement stick with money, fame, and whatever. You'll be that way too, but you're already successful because you already have this establishment principle that it's what you want to do to better the community, better the world, and I know that to be true because I know you well enough to know that is the truth, and that's why people like you, people who live that lifestyle, will become successful in this new world that we're shifting into because this is the energy that supports it.
Yeah.
The other energy, the old Piscean energy, doesn't support it anymore, and people are finding that when they're so engrossed in the Smiggle type mentality.
Yeah.
Their world's falling apart.
Yeah.
Things are not working like they used to. And with billions of dollars, they're not happy. I mean, how many people I hear over and over again have all this money and they're miserable?
Yeah. Well, it's really about focusing on what you want to create.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's my thing is like, what do I want to create? I don't want to focus my energy on the things that I don't like about the world. I'm not saying to be, absolutely oblivious to them or to be ignorant about them, but I want to focus on creating the stuff that I want to create more of. Like that's what I'm focused on with what I have. And then if I'm focused on that, as more things come in, great, I'll use that. Oh, come on in, Tim, let's do this thing. I need a wood maker. I don't know, whatever, Tim the woodmaker, but like you're not a woodmaker at all, but like you're a TV host, but like, I want to build this thing. You know what I'm saying? And it's like I'm focused on creating that. That's what I want to do. Yeah. And that's what I'm going to create more of. And so if I'm focused on that, everything is going to feed into that, And,
well, listen, it's beautiful, and I love what you're doing. In fact, I want to hear a little bit more about what you think's next for you in the real world, in this three-dimensional world, that you feel like you talent you could give back to make it a better world. And then at the end, let's close out the show with a little beatbox for Amy.
Sure.
Maybe come up with a little Amy
Sure,
beatbox.
I
all
love
right?
it.
All
Yeah,
right.
good old Amy. Good old Amy.
Amy, you're getting your own beatbox
Yeah.
song here.
Yeah.
So what do you like? What do you have in the works that you feel that maybe the universe now can give back to you and help you reach this goal?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Well, first of all, we're doing more on the virtual platform. So I'm a keynote speaker. So I'm doing keynoting. So I basically, fly around and go to, give presentations, and I use all my musical skills and everything, tools to.
They can reach you by how?
Oh yeah, Bronkar.com. So Bronkar. He's the beatbox man, and his name is Bronkar. But Bronkar.com is
Nice
my
jingle.
Thank you. Written by my amazing wife and sanity goddess, Cindy, who is a brilliant songwriter herself, over 500 original songs. She's why we moved to LA. She was doing work with ASCAP. But anyway, and speaking of Cindy, we actually have an online course that we created recently that you can, if you're interested in getting more involved with our virtual community, you can go to my website, bronkar.com, and go to the store section or the coaching section and get into we have cool online courses. We have free stuff. We have paid stuff. We have a book that Cindy and I wrote called Bold Achievement Method. We've got all of this, stuff on our website, bronkar.com. And so we're creating a deeper virtual community, also building on this parenting thing and building on this, fatherhood and this connection with kids or with humans in general, but definitely the combination of the liberation of my old patterns with my, story, and then rewriting that new narrative and that new story with Elijah and now Nico as well, and everybody that I'm interacting with. Something has been released with all of that, and with this viral video, the response has been incredible. I mean, it's got millions of shares and 80 million. It's just incredible, and it's so overwhelmingly awesome when I just think about it. And I'm not even doing it. We did this thing, and it's going, and it's got a life of its own. But something from that, people are showing up and sending me messages and saying, "Wow, I'm going through this hard time. You've changed my life with my kids, with my parents, with whatever it is." All these messages, and I'm like, that's something. So I'm wanting to focus more on the connection and what that's all about. So I'm looking at creating a virtual community on Facebook, and also writing a book about this as well, and the importance of the connections. And
you heard it. Check out Bronkar.com. We got to wrap it up here. Then tomorrow, guys, thanks for listening. Check out Elisa E. It's our MK Ultra survivor and how she's healing, and it's an incredible story. So Bronkar, take us out of here, man. Take us out.
Wrap it up.
Yeah.
Wrap it up for Amy. Wrap it up. Wherever you are, Amy, I love you. Amy, yeah.
Hope you enjoyed the show, guys. Facebook, see you later.